make it look harder. Okay, touch first.
Okay.
And go to. Very nice.
Yeah. You guys have already been so warm and welcoming to me. So I just want to give everybody here a big round of applause first of all. Congratulations to all you guys working your tails off. That's amazing. He was telling me all the stuff you've gone through, the CrossFit, and then all the stuff you're doing now, and you guys are awesome. It's really cool to watch. So you know, I get to travel the world and I get to speak and perform doing acrobatic and aerial work, and really been blessed to meet so many beautiful people in my life. And you know, I take a step back and I look at the beginning of my life. Born without legs, left in the hospital, put up for adoption, first 3 months of my life, living in a foster home. And that sounds like a kind of a rough way to start life. It just sounds kind of ugly, right? And the beauty is that my parents gave me this mindset. They gave me the biggest advantage in my entire life that changed the course of the rest of my entire life. You know, there were 300 couples on a waiting list to adopt me. Can you imagine that? I didn't know I was such a popular little baby, but, so, you know, 300 couples is 300 different directions my life could have gone in. 300 different people that you would see in front of you today. Or maybe I wouldn't even be here. I can guarantee you I wouldn't be this person if it wasn't for the culmination, the co-collaboration of my teachers, my parents, my coaches, and my peers. Every single one of those people in my community, in my life, in my childhood, they played such a key part in who I am today, establishing the confidence and the self-esteem. The first set of doctors that my parents took me to after I was adopted told them I would never even be able to sit up at all on my own. So I would be confined to this device, basically, that holds me upright the rest of my life. They were 100% convinced that that was it, that was the rest of my life, that was my future. Can you imagine what my life would have been like if my parents would have taken that first opinion of the doctors? I would be probably still living at home, probably overweight, probably completely codependent upon my parents, having no self-esteem, no confidence, no drive, no feistiness in life. And I'm just so thankful that they said, you know what, there's gotta be more. This can't be her future. She can't be confined to this thing her whole life. So they got a second opinion. They went to the Shriners Hospital. And my dad, he's very straight to the point. So he goes into the doctors and the first thing he says is, listen, all right, just tell me one thing. Is she gonna be able to sit up on her own? And the doctor looks at him and says, Mr. Bricker, she's gonna do things that are beyond your wildest imagination. And it wasn't too long after that I got fitted for my first pair of prosthetics. And there's a picture that is so funny. I was about 2 years old. I'm in my prosthetics. I'm reaching out and I'm screaming and crying. And that pretty much sums up how I still feel to this day about prosthetics for me. They've been very much, they're obviously a great tool to have. They help a lot of people. But for me, it was always, I did sports. I was athletic. I was climbing trees. I was tumbling, playing softball, basketball, volleyball, all of these things. And so for me, having them, it was very constricting. It actually didn't allow me to do all the things that I do. And, you know, my parents, they fought for my independence from day one. The school in second grade, they wanted to assign an aide to me to go out the room, up and down the stairs, everywhere with me. I couldn't even leave to go to the bathroom by myself. So they were completely making me codependent upon this aide. And my parents stepped in and said, hey, whoa, wait a minute. We're raising her to be independent. We're raising her to be an adult. She's not going to be a child her whole life. We want her to be very independent. And they said, well, what if she gets her finger stepped on? And we were in a school that had 4 stories and there was no elevator. It was a really old school. So I was up and down the stairs just like everybody else, with everybody else. And so the school was so afraid, what if? And my parents said, if she gets her finger stepped on, she'll move out of the way. She'll learn the next time. The kids will learn. Everybody will just work together. But we have to teach her this confidence and this independence. And that has 100% directly affected me as who I am today. They didn't just wait until I got older to teach me all these lessons. They started from day one, fighting for my independence, making me aware of my body, discipline, hard work, which I know you are all very well aware of, all of that. And it's amazing to me because that's the power of your mind. I always say the power of your mind can transcend anything physical. And I feel like my life is an example of that. I feel like I was born this way. I know I was born this way, and given all my special, unique gifts and talents to do what I'm doing today. I wasn't born like this by mistake. This wasn't an accident. This was exactly how it was supposed to be. I was raised in the family that I was supposed to grow up with, and I grew up in a place exactly where I was meant to be. In order to be who I am today, to be on my path, to be able to give to others, I believe and I know that every single person in this room, every single one of you, no one is free from this. You all have a special gift and unique talent, things that you love, things that you're passionate about, things that are equally as important too. My gifts and talents are no more important than every single one of yours, and they all have the power to change someone's life. If you're good at listening, if you're good at math, if you're a musician, if you're an artist, all of these things can speak to somebody. And you know what? You can actually enjoy what you do with your life, and it can have an impact and change someone's life. That is exciting, right? Is that exciting? You get excited by that, right? I feel so unbelievably humbled and blessed that every single day I started to wake up and just realize every day is full of opportunity. Every day is new. There's beauty and wonder and magic in every single day. And I tell you what, I have met some of the most amazing people around the world. I feel like God just puts the most beautiful people anywhere I'm at in the world, any country, any city, any state. The most beautiful people come into my life. And, I think it's important to not be closed off to certain people. And I feel that the love, if you give people a chance, they might not just always let you down, they might surprise you in a positive, amazing, beautiful way. And, if it hadn't been for all the things I told you, my parents, my self-esteem, they instilled confidence and love, compassion, encouragement. Not one time to this day did my parents ever discourage anything I ever came to them. I want to play volleyball. Awesome, go do it. I want to play softball. I want to play basketball. Oh yeah, and I also want to be a gymnast. Really? You don't have legs and you had to choose to be a gymnast? That's what you chose? Or it doesn't matter how crazy and out there it was. My parents always were like, we support you. You're going to be awesome at this. I want to go roller skating. Well, how are you going to do that? All right, cool. We'll just put the roller skates on your hands. And you can go do the limbo with the roller rink with everybody else. Just one time after another, they were constantly just tweaking things just a little bit so that I could go and do everything. Not having legs is a part of me, but it didn't define me. It wasn't dwelled upon. It wasn't the one and only thing about me. It was just always there. It never dawned on me when everybody would come up to me at my competition when I was tumbling, you're such an inspiration. And I was 12 years old, and I was like, I swear, if I hear that word one more time, I don't know what's wrong with all you people, but my friends are doing the same thing I'm doing. Why am I any different? Because my teachers, my coaches, my peers, and my parents never treated me any different. That's the proof. That's the whole point, is that I didn't realize it, so I didn't believe it. There were no limits set on my believing. There were no limits set on my dreaming, so I just kept going. All the way up. It never dawned on me that it was a big deal that I was tumbling without legs. That is amazing. But as a kid, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how amazing that gift was, and I'm really glad I didn't. And you know what else is amazing? I was never bullied. I was never made fun of in school. All these things. Because, the people I graduated with are the same kids I started kindergarten with. And so it's amazing how special I feel like I've just been taken care of. I was put in the perfect community in tiny town in the middle of Illinois. And because of the environment and the childhood I had, it gave me the confidence when I was 16 years old and found out that my childhood idol was my biological sister, gave me the confidence to go after and find them. I had 2 biological sisters. This is the girl that I've looked up to my entire life. Anybody have an idol in here? Anybody? An athlete, a musician, a singer? Right? Okay. So imagine reading about obsessed with someone your whole life, right? You watch them as a child. Mine was Dominique Moceanu. She was my absolute favorite. She was a gymnast. She was Romanian. I was Romanian. She was small and spicy, and so was I. And she was a tumbler. Her birthday was the day before mine. I loved her. I saw myself in her. We were so much alike. She was the one and only person I can say was my childhood idol. So right before I turned 16, I asked my parents if there was anything they knew about my biological family that I didn't know about. And I really asked it almost as if it were a rhetorical question because we were very open and honest in our family. And then my mom actually comes back and she answers me. She says, well, actually, yes, there is something I know that you don't know. And I'm thinking, what in the world could there possibly be that I don't know about my biological family? And she says, you're never going to believe this, but your biological last name is Moceanu. And I mean, exactly at that moment, I knew what that meant. That meant the girl I watched on TV that I idolized, and I said, what if we were related? Don't we look alike? That meant she was my biological sister. Go figure. So at 16 years old, I just became obsessed even more. I mean, I was in shock. I couldn't believe it was happening. I mean, this was like a movie, like a fairy tale movie script that doesn't happen to people in real life. But this was my reality. This was happening to me in that moment at 16 years old. And once I got past the shock and disbelief, I was excited. I had two sisters. I grew up with brothers, and not to mention one of those sisters was my childhood idol. So I spent a 4-year journey trying to contact them, trying to let them know that I'm here, I exist, you have another sister that's in your family. And I had 2 failed attempts. At the end of 2007, my third and final attempt was successful. I packaged up all the adoption papers, all the legal documents, which, by the way, was supposed to be a closed adoption. That was another miracle from the beginning. It was supposed to be a closed adoption with blacked out information. The social worker gave my parents all of this information, biological parent signature. I had a sibling 6 years older than me, aunts and uncles, all of this information that we were not supposed to have. Without that information, my mom never would have been able to put 2 and 2 together, watching Dominique on TV, panning to the audience, showing Dimitri and Camelia Moceanu, and then doing the math and adding it up from the adoption papers. That's how my mom figured out that my childhood idol was my biological sister when I was 7 years old. So then we fast forward, you know, she didn't want to tell me at the time because I was too young. Dominique had been through the press in a rough situation with her family. And so here I am, 4 years later, at the end of 2007, I had sent out my whole package, my letter, pictures, and all the legal documents. And I'm sitting on my floor in my apartment in Orlando, Florida, and this letter I received from Dominique that I had been waiting for, not only for 2 weeks, but 4 years, was right in front of me. And it was one of those Band-Aid moments where I didn't want to read it because I really didn't know if it was going to be good, if she was going to accept me. I had no idea what was going to be in that letter. But I knew I just had to rip it open and read it, and whatever it was going to be, it was going to be okay. So I got to I'll never forget the line in the very middle of the letter from my sister. And she said, you're about to be an auntie. And I knew at that moment that she had accepted me as her sister. December 2007, and we all three, me, Christina, and Dominique, my sisters, we met for the first time in Ohio in May of 2008, and, you know, it was one of the most surreal but natural moments of my entire life. I mean, you're meeting your biological sister, so that right there is just, that's huge in itself, by itself, standing alone. But then you add on top of that it's your biological sister. And it's just, I call it a computer glitch moment. It was just information overload, and I just glitched for a second because it was so amazing. And I remember getting to the airport, I see Dominique in the distance. She's holding a video camera, pushing her daughter in the stroller, and she has a long stem rose. And I go up to her, and it's like, do I give you a hug? Do I say hi to the camera? I'm not really sure what to do right now, but I'm just going to hug you. And it was such a funny moment. And then my younger sister, she flew in. And it was like looking at myself in the mirror. I mean, I would just stare at her. And I remember even after 2 or 3 years later, every time we'd meet up, she would just kind of catch me on the side and she'd be like, are you staring at me again? And I'm like, maybe. And, you know, ever since then, it's been over 5 years now since we all met, which is unbelievable. And we've just been establishing a relationship as sisters. Sometimes we get to do events together and speak together. We get to do TV appearances together and just travel the world. And, you know, we've really gotten to a point where we're family now. And it was just one of the most amazing miracles and blessings of my life. And I feel so honored to be living this life in this path and just living out my purpose. And I encourage you all to just really dig deep and find out, think, you know, what are you passionate about? What do I love? What are my gifts and talents? Because you all have them. And then how can I use those to help others and change people's lives and just rock in life? Thank you so much. Couple questions if anybody has any.
You guys, have a seat for a second, see if you have any questions. Anybody?
Any questions in the front row here?
Master Reed.
Okay, yes.
When did you first start doing gymnastics again?
When did I first start doing gymnastics? I started the beginner classes in second grade. Second grade, and then continued, and then I started competing as I got older.
You competed?
Yeah, I competed for 4 years. Yeah, I went USTA and AAU gymnastics. I actually went to the Junior Olympics and got 4th in my division. So, yeah. Yeah, right here.
Any contact with your parents?
Do I have any contact with my biological parents? My biological father had passed away before I got to meet him. But the cool thing about that is before he passed, he knew that I contacted my sisters, and he was the first person that said he wanted to meet me. And I think that's super cool. And I did meet my biological mother in 2010, and it was a happy meeting. Happy meeting, yes.
So let me interrupt for a second. So talk about overcoming obstacles. I just want to know how this whole day planned. First, she was planning to do a performance for us that required some rigging. So we've been going through some challenges. We couldn't get it done. So that was the first challenge. Now I told her on the phone, you know, sorry, you know, the rigging didn't work, you know, and I expected, oh, you know, whatever. And it was like, okay, then what do we do now? Then she comes here, we're supposed to show a 5-minute video clip, and we ended up with no sound, right? And again, the reaction was, we're going to do this thing, right? We're going to do it happen. And that's exactly what we have, my goal for black belts. I mean, that's what Hapkido was all about. No set patterns of movement. Doesn't matter what situation you're in, your reaction should be,
That's great.
great. Doesn't matter what it is, it's great. We're going to make it whatever happens, whatever happens. But what a great example of that just today, with all the stuff that was going on between the rigging and the video and all that stuff, but to keep that spirit up and going on, and that was right on.